how you doing? I'm doing great because today we're doing a really fun video in which I read 3 fantasy romances. Basically, I'm a fantasy girly, I'm a romance girly, but I don't feel like I read a lot of fantasy romance. It is not necessarily a genre I have anything against. It's a genre I have dabbled in occasionally, but it's not one that I read often. So I wanted to do a video in which I read 3 fantasy romances. They're also 3 very popular romances, so I thought it would be fun to try and check them out. So that's what I did. The first book that I read for this video is The Witch Kingdom by Daniel L. Jensen, which I have had to return to the library, so that's why there's a picture on here. But in the actual vlog portion, I'll be holding the actual book. And then I also read Rhapsodic by Laura Tolasa, which I also have heard great things about. And then lastly, I read A Kingdom of Flesh and Fire by Jennifer Armentrout, which is the second book in the From Blood and Ash series. And I quite liked that first book, so hopes for that one. And yeah, I already finished this vlog, as obvious, so I know my thoughts on these books, but you don't. So let's just get into things. Hi, so I'm gonna get started on The Witch Kingdom by Daniel L. Jensen, and I thought I'd read you the synopsis so that we're on the same page. And I actually also don't know the synopsis of this one. The only thing that I know about this is that I believe, like, it's fantasy romance, of course, and then I believe, like, no, I'm mixing this up with another book. I only know basically what the tagline says here. But I fell in love with a man who you've sworn to destroy. That's basically the only thing I know about this book. I don't know the specifics. So let's read the synopsis, because this book doesn't have any. A warrior princess trained in isolation, Laura is driven by 2 certainties. The first is that King Aaron of the Witch Kingdom is her enemy, and the second is that she'll be the one to bring him to his knees. The only route through its storm-ravaged world, the Witch Kingdom enriches itself and deprives its rivals, including Laura's homeland. So when she is sent as a bride under the guise of peace, Laura is prepared to do whatever it takes to fracture its impenetrable defenses and the defenses of its king. Yet as she infiltrates her new home and gains a deeper understanding of the war to possess the bridge, Laura begins to question whether she's the hero or the villain. And as her feelings for Aaron transform from a frosty hostility to fierce passion, Laura must choose which kingdom she'll save and which kingdom she'll destroy. I'm reading this because this has been out for a while, and ever since then I have heard such amazing things about this book, so that's the reason why I've been meaning to check it out. And I did get it correct in my brain. I didn't say it, but I did think this was like an arranged marriage type situation, but I was afraid that I was mixing it up with another book, but I wasn't, so that's also fun. We also have this character art at the front and back. It's the same, and something I really like is look at these chapter headers. So much fun. I'm gonna go read this and I'll update you once a minute. Hi, I am a quarter of the way through the Witch Kingdom. That means I'm 107 pages into this book, and I don't really know how to feel about it right now, but I also feel like we haven't really gotten into the thick of it, you know? At this point, just not a whole lot has happened yet. They are together, like they are married already, so that has happened. And it mostly Laura constantly being like, oh, I'm trying to figure out shit and learn things, but they can't know that I'm doing that. And then Aaron, is that how you pronounce his name? The guy being like, oh, she is just dumb and simple and naive and not at all what I was expecting. So that's everything that's really been in there so far. It has been reading quite quickly, but it's not super gripping to me, so I don't know. I hopefully will have more positive thoughts when I'm halfway through it. Hi, so I'm halfway through the Witch Kingdom. I'm on page 214, and I still kind of feel the same way as the last time. We have gotten like a bit more action. I feel like we've gotten to see more of the state of the Witch Kingdom, and we've gotten more to see of that place, and we've seen Laura kind of starting to doubt a little bit what she was taught about the Witch Kingdom, because, you know, stuff that she's seeing and happening around her doesn't like match with the description she's been given. So she is starting to doubt it a little bit, but like it's so small still that that's not a thing. And then also Laura's kind of showing more showing more and more that she's capable of more than what her initial impressions was. And Aaron, is that how you pronounce his name, is starting to pick up on that a little bit, but like it's all still very early stages, and I still am kind of like not that invested in this. I am flying through this, like it's such an easy read, but there was just nothing about it that's really gripping me so far. Hi, how are you doing? Good evening. I just finished The Witch Kingdom by Daniel L. Jensen, and I am very sorry to report that I don't have that much news to talk to you about. I think this is gonna be a 3-star for me because overall, as you were able to tell from the blog updates, I just wasn't that enthralled by this book. I was not super engaged while reading, but I did fly through it. I did in the end quite like it because the ending, shit happens and my jaw literally dropped. So you know, there was some sort of investment because otherwise that wouldn't have happened. So yeah, I do think it is a decent enough book. I just think my problem with it now that I finished it is that I just never really got connected to the characters. Like I genuinely don't know a whole lot about them, and I never got connected to them. I also think the relationship development I would just have liked a little bit more from. When it comes to the fantasy part of the fantasy romance, I did really like it. I liked the storyline with like the different kingdoms and like the political war side of it. So yeah, it's a 3-star. It's fine. It's nothing mind-blowing, but I am still really excited to read the second book. And then the next book that I will be reading, I hope I like because I have the entire series. That's Rhapsodic by Laura Talasa. Let me read you the back of this. Calypso Lilith is a siren with a very big problem, one that stretches up her arm and far into her past. For the last 7 years, she's been collecting magical IOUs for favors she's received. Only debt or repayment will fulfill the obligations. Only then will the beads disappear. Everyone knows that if you need a favor, you go to the bargainer to make it happen. He's a man who can get you anything you want at a price. And everyone knows that sooner or later he always collects. When Kelly finds the bargainer in her room, a grin on his lips and a twinkle in his eye, she knows things are about to change. At first, it's just a chaste kiss, a single bead's worth, and a promise for more. For the bargainer, it's more than just a matter of rekindling an old romance, something that's happening in the other world. Fae warriors are going missing one by one, only the women are returned, each in a glass casket, a child clutched to their breast. And then there are the whispers among the slaves, the whispers of an evil that's been awoken. That just made me realize I've literally never heard the synopsis for this. I had no clue that that was what this is about. But I have heard great things about this series and this author in general. It's fantasy romance, fae romance, which I'm also excited because I feel like fae romance is like the most popular in fantasy romance, but it's the only fae romance we have for this video. So yeah, I'm very excited to be reading this. It's also not too long. I feel like fantasy romance also tends to be very long. This isn't. So I am hoping to enjoy it. Hi, I am a quarter of the way through Rhapsodic by Laura Talasa, which is 92 pages. So I thought I'd give you a little update. I don't really have that many thoughts because I feel like we'll only have just been introduced to what's going to be the main plot of this, like the main mystery of it, I guess. Because, I mean, it's on the back, right? That something's going awry in the Fae world. Like, we've just been introduced to that's the thing that's going on. And that's something we're gonna, like, investigate, I guess. So I didn't have that many thoughts. The only thing I can tell you is that I'm intrigued. I like the writing. I am interested in the potential romance that is blossoming, but it also kind of feels a bit over the top in a way, and I am not entirely sure if I'm on board with that. So I am halfway through Rhapsodic, which is 188 pages, and I don't have that much more to report to you on my feelings on this. I do feel like I'm getting less and less interested in the actual romance part of this, just because basically with the setup of this book is that like 7 years ago, Holly first like asked a favor for the bargainer, and like after that they've kind of like been in touch, and like not really been in touch, but like she's kept using bargains from the bargain to like stay in touch with him, and that ended up with her like falling for him, and then he left, and now it's like 7 years later, and now the bargainer has come in to collect on his things, and that's just like the setup for the moment. And I feel like in present time we're doing nothing to develop like any feelings. It's just like, oh yeah, I loved you back then and I still do now. And I think that's so unrealistic. It's like one of my least favorite things books like this do. It's just like, just because you loved someone 7 years ago and you haven't seen them since doesn't mean you still love them now. That's bullshit. And that's what this book is doing. And in this book it's especially annoying me because Callie was underage 7 years ago and the bargainer was not. So that it just kind of bothered me, because even though they keep emphasizing that he did nothing during that time period to show any interest in her or something like that, the fact that we're not building anything now and just like, oh Kelly, you don't know how long I've been waiting for this, it's like, it's gross, it's icky, I'm sorry, I don't like it. It gives I very much waited until you were legal vibes. I don't know, that's not vibing with me, and I feel like it could have been fixed, that problem could have been fixed easily by just putting more effort in developing feelings there in the present timeline to show things have changed and not immediately like fall back into the old ways. And just some other parts of the dynamic I'm not the biggest fan of. It's giving me a bit of the ick. But besides that, I am quite liking the, like, again, the fantasy storyline. I'm enjoying this. We haven't progressed further that much, but we have uncovered some other clues. We know some more of what's going on, but not a whole lot. I'm excited to like learn more about it because I generally think that's interesting. But yeah, just like the Butch ending, I'm not that interested in the romance. Hi, how are you doing? Today I finished Rhapsodic by Laura Talasa, so I thought I'd give you a quick update on it. I ended up giving this 2 stars. That might not have been a surprise to anyone on here, because like I said, the romance was making me feel icky and the way it continued didn't help. I feel like we leaned in more into that vibe. Like I said, I did like eventually the fantasy storyline. I do think the ending was a little bit disappointing, but the epilogue then left things open again that made me intrigued to want to continue with the series, which is good because I have the entire series. But when it comes to just the romance, I'm also just not feeling it. Like I said, I don't think it had much development besides just like the sexual attraction stuff, which I talked about earlier as well. And you know that doesn't work for me. So yeah, it was a 2 star. I didn't hate this. I had a fun enough time. The plot was just a tad bit disappointing. It's very close to a 3 star. I don't do like 0.5, 0.45. I don't do decimal points rating, so I landed on a 2 because it doesn't feel close enough to a 3 star to be a 3 star, but it is like a very high 2 star, if that makes sense. Hi, it's been some time since I last updated this vlog. I'm sorry I did a video in between my last update and this, but we're finally reading the last book for this vlog, and that's A Kingdom of Flesh and Fire by Jennifer Armentrout, which is book 2 in the From Blood and Ash series, which, yes, it's a sequel, but this was on my top of TBR list for the year, so I desperately want to get to it. And also just because I want to continue the series while I still have some things in my mind. Like, I've read the first book, like, I believe that was the end of 2021, so it's been a while, but I still remember like vaguely what happened in it. So I want to continue the series before I completely forget. And yeah, that's what we're doing today. This is also a Mahasef, so yeah, but I'll first read you the synopsis of book 1, because you know nothing of the synopsis of book 2, of course. A maiden chosen from birth to usher in a new era, Poppy's life has never been her own. The life of the maiden is solitary, never to be touched, never to be looked upon, never to be spoken to, never to experience pleasure. Waiting for the day of her ascension, she would rather be with the gods fighting back the evil that took her family than preparing to be found worthy by the gods. But the choice has never been hers, a duty. The entire kingdom's future rests on Poppy's shoulders, something she's not even quite sure she wants for herself, because a maiden has a heart and a soul and longing, and when Hawk, a golden-eyed guard, honor-bound to ensure her ascension, enters her life, destiny and beauty become tangled with desire and need. He incites her anger, makes her question everything she believes in, and tempts her with the forbidden, A kingdom. Forsaken by the gods and feared by mortals, a fallen kingdom is rising once more, determined to take back what they believe is theirs through violence and vengeance. And as the shadow of those cursed draws closer, the line between what is forbidden and what is right becomes blurred. Poppy is not only on the verge of losing her heart and being found unworthy by the gods, but also her life from every blood-soaked thread that holds her world together begins to unravel. Yeah, so that's the synopsis of the first book, and I quite enjoyed that. I was not as obsessed with it as most people seem to be, but I am still excited to continue on with the series. I do know that like the general opinion of this series goes downhill as it continues, but I believe the second book is still well liked, so hopefully things will go alright for me. Hi, I'm a quarter of the way through A Kingdom of Flesh and Fire by Jennifer Armentrout, which is 155 pages, which isn't a lot. I mean, it sounds like a lot, but like, look at the sugar. It's not a lot. This is the halfway mark, so that's what I'm gonna read next. But I'm here with kind of a disappointing update because I'm not liking it so far. Like, it's so slow, like so incredibly slow, and it's a lot in my brain. I don't know, it's not connecting with it. I'm not really like that engaged in what's happening, even if it's a very small amount. Just have so much info dumping, which was also the case in the first book, but I liked it in there. I just feel like things have gotten a bit more complex with this book and the expansion of the world. Not that it's like super difficult to follow explanation, but if you're getting like so many explanations in a row about like these concepts that are just like a bit more complex, it hurts your brain, and like it's a slog to get through so far. So yeah, there's just nothing about this that's really like interesting me, and I'm like forcing myself to read it and to pick it up because I'm not having a good time. Hi, how you doing? I'm doing great because I reached the halfway mark of A Kingdom of Flesh and Fire. Oh god. I do have to say that my enjoyment of this book has increased now that we're 310 pages in. It's not my favorite. Like, I'm not looking forward to the rest of the 300. Like, why is there another 310 pages? That's so much. So, you know, I'm not looking forward to reading that much more of this book. But I have to say that this quarter just like read a lot quicker for me, and I think part of that is being more used to the world and the writing and like everything, but also just enjoying it more a little bit. I thought it was less boring. There have been some stuff happening that's not really that action packed. It still has a lot of info dumping, which is just done in the most annoying way because we have a main character just like asking a question and then like another character just explaining everything, and those parts are still very exhausting to read, and I skip over them sometimes, and I'm not that invested in everything happening, but we are getting some action moments and we're on the road right now. Okay, so I finished A Kingdom of Flesh and Fire by Jennifer Armentrout, and I landed on like 3-star because I just feel like this book was very like middle of the road to me. Like, I don't have too many solo complaints about it. I do have a couple. I didn't think this was a terrible book. I just thought it was long and it didn't need to be that long. And when it comes to the world building, there could have been a more efficient way than just Poppy constantly asking, what's that, what's that, what's that, because that was really annoying. But for the rest, I did quite like this. I like the expansion we got in the world of the world. I just don't like the way we got it in, you know. I think that once you get like fully settled into this book and it starts going, there are some interesting things that happen in this book. Not a whole lot, but there are some interesting things that happen in this book. I like the cast of characters. I'm not particularly attached to any of them, but I do like them. The same with the romance. Like, I don't hate it. I don't have anything against it, but I'm also not like super invested in it. That means that this vlog was a massive disappointment. I mean, I had 2 3-stars and a 2-star. That's not the vibe we're looking for. That is the vibe we got. But to be fair, these are all series I'm continuing in, plus the Butch Kingdom that's already back at the library. They're series I'll be continuing in. These because I own the sequels already, so I feel like I have to, but also because I am interested in that. And the Butch Kingdom because I genuinely love the fantasy storyline in that, and I'm very intrigued to see how that will develop. But yeah, this was my fantasy romance vlog. So enjoyed doing this video, and I hope you enjoyed watching it, and hopefully I'll see you around next time. Here I am again, the same old situation. What does the